So the purpose of this little gathering is just to explain what the Global Earth Exchange is and why we started it, and to just give a few tips about how to go about organizing it, inviting people, what to do when you get there. So it actually started out in 2010, which was a year after Radical Joy for Hard Times was founded. And I just got the idea. We were trying to think of some way to how to launch the organization. And I got this idea, why not just invite people all over the world to go to a place that they care about that's been hurt, and to make a gift for it, make a gift of beauty for it. So we organized this thing in June, and it was amazing. And people on all 7 continents ended up participating in that year, including some scientists in Antarctica, a friend in Japan who did something on a beach for a little dead turtle, all over. And so it was so successful, and we made a slideshow of it, put it on the website, and it was also so meaningful, and so it was so moving that we decided we had to make it an annual event. So we've been doing it every year. This is the 13th year, and the purpose of it is to go to a place that you care about and to find and make a gift of beauty for it. So it's a way of giving back to the earth. If you think about the places that we care about that are meaningful to us, they give a lot, and they don't just give to humans, but they also give to birds and animals and trees and rivers and stones and history and culture. And so when things happen to these places that damage them or destroy them or threaten to even, we feel sad. It's something that all people have in common. And this has been one of the most gratifying aspects of the Global Earth Exchange and all of our practices. And that is that it truly is universal. You know, it's not just a thing that I, as a white American woman, created. It is universal, because no matter where people live, they love their place. And when that place is threatened, they feel sad. And so this is a very simple way to respond. We can't always fix places. That doesn't mean we don't try. It doesn't mean we don't protest. It doesn't mean we don't organize, rebuild, educate, do all of those things. But one thing that everybody can do at any time is to go to a place and find and make beauty. So I'm going to try and show us one slide. There are 5 suggested steps of the Earth Exchange. So these are the 5 steps, the 5 suggested steps of the Global Earth Exchange. Number 1, go alone or with friends to a wounded place. Number 2, sit a while and share your stories about what the place means to you. Number 3, get to know the place as it is now. Number 4, share with the others what you discovered. And number 5, make a simple gift of beauty for the place. And all of this is on the website. So it's on the website under the section, first it's practice, and then it's Global Earth Exchange. And really, I'm going to discuss each of the steps, but really the most important part of it is, I'm just trying, I can't get back to the full screen now. My goodness, I'm having trouble this time. Okay. The most important one of it is, or the 2 most important steps. The other ones are infinitely adaptable, but the 2 most important are the first one and the 5th one. So going to the place and making the gift of beauty. The reason the first one is important is that it enables us to face what we often don't want to face. And when we're talking about a place that's hurt, whether it's a whole country, like you're interested in doing something for Ukraine, or whether it's a tree in your own backyard that's been infected by insects, or whether it's a street corner where there's been violence, or a forest that's been cut down, whatever it is, the tendency is to want to kind of look away and not pay attention to it. And we see this even with people in other countries reading about what's happening in Ukraine. They say, I have to turn away from the news. It's too much. I can't. And I've heard stories about people with damaged areas in their communities, and they'll drive a long way around to avoid going there because they think it's going to be too painful. But when we do go to these places, we discover that we can face things that we didn't think we could face. And it also is really, really important. This is all about bringing us into relationship with a place, or bringing us back into relationship with a place. So by going there in person, we actually face what we thought we couldn't face or didn't want to face. And that's really, really important. And the interesting thing that happens, which I'll explain a little bit more later on, is that so often people discover that they go there and they do this really simple practice. And then at the end, they say, I had a lot of misgivings about going, but I went and I ended up loving the place. I have a whole different kind of relationship with it. So it's important to go there. And if you can't go there, you just do the best you can. You create something in your house or in your yard that represents that place. But you make it as physical as you can. If the place is toxic, you don't want to go to a toxic place. You don't want to trespass, although some people have, trespassed onto lands where they're not supposed to go. You get as close as you can. You get outside the fence, or you get in the vicinity, or you get on the road. But the point is to actually be as physically present with the place as you possibly can. Not meditating on it from afar, simply with thoughts. So that's how we start out. The second one is about sharing stories of the place. And sometimes people go and they've never been to the place in reality, but that really doesn't matter, because what you're doing is you're sharing your experience of what it's like to be there at that particular time. And you're sharing your memories of it, your feelings about what happened when it was hurt, your hopes for it, any kind of work you've been doing to try and restore it or make it better, your avoidance of it. Like I remember when I led for the Susquehanna River. I used to live in Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania. And we did one for the Susquehanna River, which that year had been named the most endangered river in America because of the gas fracking. And this one woman said, I go over this bridge every single day to work and home, and I never think about the river. So it was like the river suddenly sort of popped into her consciousness and brought itself to her. So just sharing stories. And it's also a way of reminding ourselves that we have a relationship with this place, no matter what it is. So you were going to do something for Ukraine. It's about, you and your family can just share what's happening in your consciousness, in your feelings, in your hearts about it. The third step is getting to know the place as it is now. And that's generally, it's taking some time alone to just go and see what's there. And why this is important is that when a place gets damaged, and if whether we've been avoiding it or not, we tend to get a certain kind of consciousness about it. Like, oh, I know everything that's there, the trees are all gone. But if you actually go and spend some time there, looking around, seeing what's growing, seeing what's not growing, seeing what's happening to damage the place, then it's like it takes on a reality. It's the sort of the relationship comes forth again in a way. And you discover the resilience of the place often. You discover something touching about other people, even people that you think might have been involved in the creation of the damage of the place. You learn what's growing, you learn what's dying, and the difference between them, and how they're doing. So it's and this part might take 20 minutes, might take even 10 minutes. It might take an hour. It all depends on the circumstances and the people and what they want to do. But it's really a nice way of, especially when you're actually physically there, of reminding yourself about the place. The fourth one is simply getting together again and sharing what you discovered. You know, what did you notice? Very simple. Nothing more really even needs to be said. The last part, which is really the crux of the whole thing, is you make a gift of beauty for this place. And this is the magical part. This is the joy and radical joy for hard times. And I don't know how it works or why it works, but it works amazingly. And the idea is, as I said in the beginning, it's about giving back to a place that's given so much to so many people. So, and what we encourage, there's several things we encourage in this part of it. One is that everybody's involved, no matter what your age, your gender, your level of ability, physical ability, or what you think of as creative ability, because this is a gift that everybody can make together and ought to make together, because everybody who's there has a stake in this place, has a relationship with this place. And so that's one thing, everybody's involved. And the second one is that it's really nice to do it out of materials that the place itself offers you. Like, you don't have to bring in a lot of stuff. You don't have to bring in like sage and feathers and rope and ribbons. And, you know, you can if you want, but the place has all kinds of things with which to make beauty. It has sticks, it has stones, it has flowers, leaves, dead limbs and boughs and twigs. A lot of people make beauty out of trash, which they then pick up and take away. But there have been some wonderful rad joy creations of beauty out of trash here and there. And often people make the rad joy bird. So the bird is our symbol. And when we first did this, we just said, make a gift of beauty. And a lot of people they were a little bit baffled, like, I don't know what to do, I'm not creative, that kind of thing. So we just suggested they make a bird, because birds are universal. There are birds everywhere. Little kids know how to draw birds, right? Like, they make this sort of W-shaped thing, and that's a bird. And birds also transcend all kinds of difficulties. There's a poem by a Palestinian poet who writes about the birds singing in the morning after an Israeli bombardment, and how beautiful that is. You know, it's a sign of hope and transcendence and the ability to carry on. And, you know, I bet the birds are singing in Ukraine still, even though they stop when the bombs go off. Another reason for making beauty out of what's there is that it reminds us that that all we need in order to become our full, beautiful selves is already inside of us. You know, you don't have to bring in a lot of outside stuff. You don't have to look like anything else. You don't have to borrow any attributes from anyone else. It's all right there. So this is especially meaningful when it's a place that's been damaged, because you're actually creating beauty out of the damage. And that's what ends up happening in most of these events. You're creating beauty out of the damage. So I'm going to show, assuming that I can do it better than I did the last time, I'm going to show some, I'm going to show some pictures of some, I'm going to show some pictures of some earth exchanges. There's one of them. And this is a red joy bird that's made by two women who have been going every year since the very beginning to a park in Baltimore. It's called Wyman Park. And it's just the two of them. And they go and they pick up trash and they just make these most wonderful birds.
Shelby, I'm not seeing the birds.
You're not seeing the bird?
I'm seeing the screen with a list of
oh, for goodness sake.
You have to show.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I can't do this. I need a serious lesson in this stuff. How about that?
Yes.
Okay.
I can see it.
Good. This is the bird. Thank you for telling me.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, you've got a preview of all the ones that are coming. So like they look at that. I mean, the tail feathers made out of little bottles and a comb, and goodness knows what the feet are made of, a cigarette lighter. So they make these wonderful little birds every year, just out of stuff they find.
Nope. Oh, here it is. Okay.
All right. See it. Okay. I think I've got it. So it's going to work now. So this is a group in Bali. And they've been doing it every year as well. The woman in the green in the center is my friend. And they are in a clove forest. They grow a lot of cloves in northern Bali in the mountains. And what's happened is that over the last few years, there's been so much rain. The rainy season is supposed to last. It used to last for maybe 4 months. And lately, it's just lasts pretty much on and off all year. And so the raindrops knock the blossoms off of the clove trees, and and the farmers can't grow cloves. And it's a poor region, and they really depend on that. So they went up to the clove forest and they made this gorgeous big red joy bird out of the plants there.
Very nice.
Okay, let's see if you can see this one. Can you see this one?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're set now. So this is a young man named David Bronstein, and he took these little kids that he teaches. They went to a Japanese internment camp from World War II in California. And the place also has some environmental challenges, but he told them the story about the history. And then they made this bird out of trash. As you can see, it's all trash. And then they all took wing. It's just so cute.
It's a very upbeat picture.
It is an upbeat picture. Yes, it is. So this is a group led for several years by Christy Strickland, who taught at Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado. And they would go to a coal-fired power plant called Valmont, which you can see in the background. And they would do an earth exchange, and they would go and just spend time alone contemplating it. And it had some very interesting results. People would go typically, and I think right before this one, Bill McKibben had been there just a few days earlier, and a lot of these students had participated in a protest against the coal plant. And yet when they went there together as a group, they started to realize their own culpability in using energy and their reliance on coal. And one of the teachers, he's in the back row wearing a straw hat, sort of more towards the middle with a dark blue shirt. He came from a family of coal miners, and he said he's always felt very conflicted because his family were coal miners, and yet he knows how destructive coal is to the environment. And this ceremony of seeing both sides of it at once and not having to choose was very meaningful to him. So they did this every year with their students in it's the eco-psychology class that went. And finally, I wanted to show you this one.
Yes, I see it.
Good. This was just a small group of friends, and they would do the Global Earth Exchange every year for several years. And they just went to a simple vacant lot. And the reason I wanted to show this one is to show that it doesn't have to be a big place with a huge kind of damage in it that you pay attention to. It could just be a simple vacant lot like this, which is neglected and uncared for. And they made a heart around it, and I think it's lovely. So those are some examples of the kinds of things people do. And you can drum, you can sing, you can pray, you can dance, you can hug trees. It's just mainly a way of giving back to the place and making something beautiful. And that's really what the steps involve. And it's simple, and it's direct, and it's infinitely flexible. And the people in Bali, for example, they're not going to sit around and tell stories about what the place means to them, because that's not the kind of culture they have. They all know what this is about. And sitting around and sharing stories about a place is not what people do there. So they just go and they make offerings in their own way, and they tell the stories. And there are religious groups. We've had groups participate who are of several different religions. Muslim, they didn't sit around and tell stories either, but they would work in their permaculture garden. And they were a group called the Afghan Peace Volunteers, and I have not been able to be in touch with them since the United States pulled out of Afghanistan. So, that's definitely cause for concern. So another couple of things I wanted to mention on this call is how you find your place. Well, you've already found your place, Terry.
I did, but I can understand how much the value in actually being in a place that is wounded. And I'm sure I could I have another month to actually find some place here. I know there are places in Cortland County that are wounded. Do you think it would be better if I did do that? Find someplace local that's easier to go to?
No, not necessarily. I mean, doing something for Ukraine was what was in your heart, and it was your first instinct. So I think you should do that.
Okay, I would agree.
You'll find a way to do it.
Yes. Okay. Good.
And you could go and do something for another place at some other time. It's not. This is not, and we don't want it to be only restricted to once a year in the month of June. Now you have the.
Definitely, I think just even listening to, your preferences to how things work and what you want people to do. Yes, it changes your perspective. As when I'm driving around, I'll probably see more wounded places all the time, just because we've had this conversation.
You will. Yeah, you will. Yeah. And you'll, and your reaction to them will probably be different.
I think so.
And as a matter of fact, 1 year for the Global Earth Exchange, I think it was maybe 4 years ago, we gave everybody who signed up a length of gold yarn that had been hand spun and hand dyed by a weaver in New York State and a weaver in Wales. And we gave them about 6 or 7 feet each and said, use this for your Global Earth Exchange, but then carry it around with you and put it on other places, give it to other places that you see that might need a little bit of help, for the rest of the year. So it can be any kind of place. And I think the range in those 5 pictures shows how diverse the places can be. Mm-hmm. It can be a place that has, massive chemical spill, or it can be a tree in your own backyard that's been infested by the emerald ash borer. It can be a street corner where a young Black man has been murdered, or by a white policeman, or it can be a mountain whose top has been blown off in order to make coal mining easier. It's really vast, and it totally depends on the person. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's what is meaningful to you. So a lot of people say, okay, well, I think I'd like to do this, but how do I tell people about it? Maybe this is a little bit of a weird thing to do. So one of our early board members had a really simple way, and I still think it's a very, very effective way to invite people. You start out by asking people, is there a place now or in your past that you were fond of that got damaged or destroyed? And I've never yet encountered anybody who can't think of something, you know, and you just start with that. You start with that and you say, okay, what this event is all about is going to a place like that in our community and giving something back to it. It's about acknowledging our feelings of grief and perhaps outrage or despair or hopelessness, and saying, let's go and find out if there's anything beautiful there and what we can do to help. So that's taking place. And it's really about knowing how to balance. It's saying it's okay, and in fact, it's appropriate to see both the ugliness and the beauty in a place, to hold as if they were like little flowers in our hands, to be able to hold both the pain of something and the joy of doing something for it. And typically we feel like we have to choose. Like I either have to be sad about something or it's inappropriate to feel happy about it. Or if I'm happy about it, I want to throw away the sadness and say, I'm not going to deal with that now. But with Radical Joy for Hard Times, and it says it all in the name, we actually can say we hold both. We recognize that all of these feelings of joy and sorrow are always at work in our lives at any particular time, sometimes more intensely than others, but they're always there and they're always present. So you invite your friends to come and do this with you. You say, and you choose a place, any place. Like I say, it doesn't have to be far away. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be big and dramatic and newsworthy. It can be in your own backyard. And people often are really, really creative about what they do there and how they invite people. And you can go as one person. Many people just go by themselves. They don't even invite other people. Some people go with their kids, their family, or we've had entire church groups go and schools go. There's a woman in Florida who has a climate communications class, and their final project of the year is to do the Global Earth Exchange on the beach where Eckerd College is, which is slowly being eroded by climate change. All kinds of things, all kinds of possibilities. So I wanted to just briefly outline some of the benefits of doing this work, and then we'll switch to questions. And we have a new person here, so that's nice. So the benefit, not just of the Global Earth Exchange, which happens every year in June, but anytime you pause long enough to make a gift of beauty for the place. And I'll share, I was in Hawaii last year, and I walked on a trail where you have to pause at the entrance and scrub your boots down with a brush and cleaning fluid, because they don't want you to track outside plant species into this area, because Hawaii is really being overrun with invasive plants. So I was walking along, it was a very long trail, and I came to a place where some of these plants had been cut. And I just started walking by, and I just went, oh, I'll make an act of beauty here. So I just backtracked, and I made a red joy bird out of the stems of the broken plant, because the plant's not doing anything wrong. You know, it's just a plant that's in the wrong place. And yet the bioregion, the flora of that area of Hawaii is really suffering on account of it. So, it becomes, ideally, it becomes just a practice that we do when we see a place that's hurt. We want to make beauty for it. We want to acknowledge what's wrong and make beauty. The benefits. By giving beauty and creativity to hurt places, one of the major things is we gain courage to face other things in our life that aren't working. I have found this to be so amazingly true in my life. You find that you can face things in a different way. It doesn't alleviate the pain. It doesn't alleviate the grief. It doesn't alleviate the worry, perhaps, about things like climate change or war. But you are able to say, I can deal with this. I can face this because I know how to face the wounded places of the earth and find and make beauty there. It's really pretty amazing. And people often say that it teaches them to view the whole world and their own lives differently. Doing this kind of work helps us to remember that all places, like all people, are beautiful and valued. And that, again, as I was mentioning, is a reason why it's really wonderful to make this gift of beauty out of the materials that the place itself provides, rather than thinking that you have to bring in a lot of stuff. It creates community because people all over the world share this, that when the place they love is hurt, or when it's under threat, they feel sad, they feel despair. And this simple action is a way that anybody of any age or race or religion or gender can spontaneously do something to give back, to say, I see you, place. I see you. I recognize that you can't give what you used to give, and I give something back to you. And finally, among this little group of benefits, you find that you just have a new way of looking at the world. You see places in a different way. You see people and their relationship to their places in a new way. And you are aware, I think, more of the harmony of what's broken and what's whole in the world. So it's a really beautiful act. And people often will write to us at the end and they'll say, wow, I didn't really want to go. I thought this was weird, but I went and I ended up falling in love with this place. So, and this year, we always send some kind of a gift. This year, we had 3 women artists in Mexico making these flags, the Rad Joy flags. And I just received them yesterday. They're just beautiful. They're in all these different colors. 3 women made them. They're hummingbirds. They're so beautiful. And the first 40 people who sign up get one. So I've already put one in the mail for Jennifer. So so hers will be coming. And so that's the presentation I wanted to give. We've recorded it, Tracy, for you to know. So, and for anybody else, it's recorded, and I'm going to make it very widely available. So let's take the remainder of the time for any kinds of questions that you might have.
Oh, well, this was very interesting. And yeah, at first I was like, well, it's a little weird, but no, I know it's got to be a good thing. And if Jennifer's doing it, that's always a plus for me. And I loved your explanation of it all. The bird is certainly a good choice. I can see doing our little sending positive energy to Ukraine, using birds with the sticks or twigs or whatever we find, rocks down by the river. I can picture it flying off. And if maybe we'll take everything and put it in the river when we're done, so we can just float away. We'll pretend it's going to float right over there and take care of everything for us. Is there a particular time? I mean, I know that you don't require people to do this at the same time, but is there a suggestion for it to happen on that day, just that day?
Just that day. And even it doesn't even have to be that day. Yeah, if you
Sure.
do it that week, it's just the nice thing about doing it on that day is simply because you have this sense that people all over the world are doing it at the same time. And
Yes.
So far this year, we have events happening in not only in the U.S. But Ukraine and France and England and New Zealand and Spain. So it truly is universal. Other questions?
That's all I have right now. I'll think of them after we're done.
Okay. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Trevi. I thought this was starting at 9:30. I apologize. I think I came in late.
That's okay.
I want you to know that my travels around where I've been traveling for the last few years since I've known about what you're doing have brought me to spots where there have been fires or floods or droughts. And I like to build little stupas, little cairns, little stone monuments in those places, or some of the wounded beaches that I've been on. I've collected the little local feathers and local driftwood and local shells and built little altars. I do it all the time because of you.
Wow, that's great.
And I think of you and I love you. And I love the special bond that you and I invisibly have had for a long time. And I just want you to know that I do that all the time because of you.
Oh.
And now that I live in another place, we left our 20-year home on the East Coast about 3 years ago, and we've moved 3 times since then. Where I am now is right down the mountain from where the Thomas Fire ravaged this area a few years ago. And there are a lot of black skeletons on the mountainside of tree trunks that have actually resurrected. So there's beautiful leaves on these black trunks, these charred, carbonized trunks. And yesterday I was up in the canyon and I saw one of the trees that has not grown back. And it's a massive live oak tree, except that it's not alive anymore. Very massive trunks that have just broken away and fallen to the ground. And I think that that's the place that I'm going to honor the work that you're doing that day, because it's just so obvious right in the middle of some of the trees that are greening again. The hillsides have greened again. Thousands of homes were taken down when that fire whipped through at 3:20 in the morning from a local town, because the winds out here are tremendous, and the winds come from the east in the desert.
Oh.
Santa Ana Desert.
Oh, right.
They call them the Santa Ana winds, and I've got a whole new relationship with wind now that I live on the West Coast. I used to love wind, and now it makes me nervous because when it's fire season. But this whole mountain range has been just burned. And so much has grown back because the land here is natural, and it burns and it grows and it burns and it grows. And this one particular tree has such a story to tell. The ones near it are black, but they're green, but this one is just not coming back. And I just,
well, good. That sounds beautiful.
It's a beautiful, beautiful tree. It's huge. So that's the one I've chosen for your
Good.
day.
Well, sign up, because then I can send you a flag.
I thought I did, but
no, you didn't yet.
Well, maybe
pretty sure.
Maybe I signed up for this and thought that was that, but
yeah, this is what you signed up for.
Oh, I knew.
I just sent the flags out this morning, and I definitely didn't send you one. So
okay, well,
I'll send you the link. And I'm so happy to know that you that this practice has been meaningful to you in so many areas of your life. That's just really, nothing could make me happier, because that's what we really want. We want this inclination to make beauty for hurt places and in hurt places to be something that people do instinctively, like you would pick up litter or weed a garden. It's like you see something and you want to make beauty for it. So thank you so much for telling me that. Any other questions? Like I said, there's 17 people signed up for this, so everybody else might have been very, very mixed up too. But we're going to record it, and as they say, whoever is there is the right people to be there. Any other questions?
Would
Well,
like to, Debbie, that your presentation was wonderful and encouraging, and certainly we all know that the earth is worth giving back to. Absolutely.
Well said. The earth is worth giving back to. And I think when you signed up, I have a link, and we're going to make that widely available too on the website. But there's this very simple form that you fill out after you've done it. You just tell about your experience in your place and who was there and why you did it there. And then you can attach some photos, and you just click submit, and it automatically comes to us and it shows up on the website. So we'll have a special place for all people's stories and their photographs to be seen. And that's really, that's so moving to, during the day of the global earth exchange or afterwards, to look at the photos and the stories that people have put up. And then you just see the range and the diversity of the kinds of places that people love and the kinds of people who love them, and just the beautiful creativity that every single person and group manifests in order to express that love for their place. It's just, it's really, really beautiful. So thank you both so much for being here and for making this conversation possible, and have a beautiful event, and in honor of Ukraine and in honor of the beautiful dead live oak, and any other place that you find that you want to make beauty for today and every day.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks, Debbie.
Bye-bye.
So nice to see you.